There we go. All right, welcome everybody back to another edition of the Yellow and Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. I have a very cool guest on tonight, Ben Taylor, who's a Green Party member out in New Jersey, and he's a candidate for New Jersey District 10. He's also a mycologist, which is a expert or scientist of fungi, and he's a forager and a naturalist. So I'm really excited about having him on the show today. He comes with high praise, and I'm interested in all this stuff for sure. So Ben, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely,
pleasure to
absolutely.
be here.
Good. So let's. I mean, whatever you want to start with. You want to talk about like politics? You want to go start with the mycology?
Well, let me first go ahead. Well, let me make a quick correction. You said District 10. I am in District 9
I
of New
said
Jersey.
10.
You did.
Oh, well, I was actually
But that
that's
is
weird
that
because
is
I was reading it.
A-okay.
Okay, it's District 9. Okay.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know you've had a couple of people on from the Green Party in New Jersey
Yeah.
already who kind of hashed out how the political landscape in New Jersey
Mm-hmm,
is,
hmm
which is pretty intense to say
Yeah.
the least. Petitioning was not easy, and I kind of thought, you know, that I could kind of kick back at least a little bit after I got those petitions in, but no, no, no. It's been all gas and no brakes. So, but but basically, you've got the intro. Yep, I'm running in New Jersey, District 9. Um, very very long term incumbent. So my opponent is his name is Bill Pascrell. He's been a Democrat in that position. He was first in District 8, and when they redistricted, he ended up in 9 and kept winning elections for 14 terms.
Oh,
So longer than I've been alive is how long he's been in power here.
wow. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot.
How's that for an intro?
That's like that Strom Thurmond guy who, like, I don't know, he finally passed away about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, but he was in Congress for like since like the 40s or something. It was nuts. Like
Right. Some of this
something
stuff
like
is
that.
nuts.
Like before
Some of
civil
this
rights, he
stuff
was
is
like back.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Anyway. Okay.
So yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's funny because I see him on Twitter all the time, saying Trump's going to be a dictator and stuff, and I'm almost every time I'm like, you already are the
Yeah.
dictator,
I mean,
man.
seriously, dude. Seriously.
And yeah, so he's getting pretty unpopular by the day, and so yes, why I'm trying to win the seat with the Green Party. I'm definitely not just uh, sitting around. I really do want rights for working people, and I want better lives for working people. And that's why, as a Green Party, obviously, we don't take corporate donations, we don't take
Right.
PAC money, we don't do any of that. And throughout my political career, I always saw that as something that was really bad for a society generally. Um, and it's definitely true. So, capital lobbies have got to go for sure.
100% agreed. Yeah.
And yeah, so anyways, I have my degree in political science. That's what I went to college for. I graduated from Rutgers University, the state
Oh,
university
yeah.
here
It's a good
in
one.
New Jersey, and
Hmm
yeah, it is a good one. I minored in plant science, so I was able to get a little bit of both worlds, and I really enjoyed that. Um, and but there was no mycology program actually at my school, and mushrooms sort of became an interest of mine around that time, and I was looking for a way to get into this, and there was really just nothing. So I had to teach myself, and I'll preamble everything that I say about mushrooms and mycology. This is all self taught, and I've learned quite a lot from. I'll shout out one resource for anybody looking to get into this because it is really daunting. But I learned a lot on what's called the shroomery.org, and the shroomery is full of people who will help you identify your mushrooms, including me. So I'm an identifier on there.
Shroomery. Don't. I'm listening. I'm just. I want to look it up. Make sure it's in my phone so I can look at it later. Shroomery.
Mm-hmm. So the platform really kind of gears itself towards psychedelic mushrooms,
Nice.
which we will get into. We will definitely talk about that because one of the areas where politics and mycology touches over is prohibition. I mean, that's certainly a major, major component of this sort of presentation that I've put together here.
Okay.
And yeah, so the Shroomery, and there's a couple of folks who are particular pioneers in mycology right now. Alan Rockefeller is the name of one of them who I followed his work very closely to learn about a lot of this stuff. So that's who I am. That's what I do. That's what I'm doing here. And yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's fascinating. Yeah, I want to hear more about this. It's out there more and more. The notion of like the medical or health benefits, psychological, emotional, physiological, otherwise,
Yeah.
of hallucinogen mushrooms, psilocybin, if I'm saying that right. Um,
Psilocybin.
psilocybin. Thank you, psilocybin.
You've got
Um,
it.
yeah, no. So, and like I was discussing with Ben before we aired. I'm certified in horticulture, and like fungi is like one of the most important things in like all of nature. Like it really is, and you don't think about it because you think they're just little things that pop up here again, like when it's warm and wet enough, and it's not. That I mean, there's mycelium underneath like just about everything.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably cool. So, but yeah, so talk about it. Talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, so you've got it. I mean, basically exactly right. The fungal mycelium is sort of the main component of the mushroom organism. So all mushrooms are fungi, but not all fungi
Okay, right,
produce mushrooms.
right.
So things like yeasts, which is, excuse me, I'm also just getting over a cold
That's
at
okay.
this point, so I might cough a couple times.
That's all right.
Yeasts obviously don't produce mushrooms, but many fungi do produce mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and the mushroom is the fruit of
Mm-hmm.
this mycelial network of the fungus. And a lot of these networks form connections, especially in forests. So here in New Jersey, we're losing basically all of our forests. And so another important area where these two things connect, politics and mycology, is conservation
Yeah.
and really the climate crisis. I mean, we're
Yeah.
losing species of fungi before we can even name them because it's so understudied. Um, I'll give you a kind of quick example. Just the other day, actually, I had written a news article for it's a small town up in Maine that I visit usually every summer if I can, and I had found a mushroom there that I was pretty sure was not documented. And
Cool.
the next year, there was some commotion about some potential contractors expanding on a campsite development thing. They were going to do some kind of big project and basically build like a resort in the middle of the woods here. And so I felt compelled to write this article about not just that species, but a couple of rarer species that you can find up there in the woods, and about why conservation is going to be so crucial for mycology, especially as the
Yeah.
science develops further. Um, we're really losing species faster than we can catalog them, and this is part of why the capitalist mode of production is a failure, not just for people like you and me, but for the entire ecosystem of the planet. We can't be developing constantly. It's a problem, and especially in my district. So in District 9, there's like almost no woods at all. It's
Oh,
like developed to the nth degree, right? it's it's almost a little bit scary if you drive around there. It's sort of like it's like suburb after slightly more crowded uh, suburb, and then city, and then it's just very very crowded, and they don't stop developing. And
mhm.
to be honest, I get a sense the incumbent has some sort of a um, something set up with like contracting companies,
Mhm.
because there's so many in my district especially, and they're always developing, and it's not sustainable. So
No, it's definitely not sustainable.
yeah.
Overdevelopment is probably like overpopulation and overdevelopment, and one leads to the other is easily why all this
Right.
shit is happening. There's no doubt.
Exactly. And it's all predicated upon the capitalist idea, which is that you can keep making money
Yep,
forever, and you
and
can keep
never and never and
expanding business,
never.
and
Yep.
markets are going to keep expanding
Mhm.
forever,
Yeah.
and the world is actually infinite, and we live in this fairy tale where yeah, something like climate change is never going to happen, but that's not the reality, clearly. So
One thing I
um
noticed, like
yeah,
on like in light of what you're saying, if you don't mind, real quick, is that a
totally.
lot of the people who are opposed to the idea of climate change, whether they think it's either A, just 100% a hoax, or B, they don't think it's as bad as what people are saying, um, are the ones are the staunch capitalists. Literally, like it's almost every single one. Like check,
Oh,
check, check. You can
absolutely.
tell that they're just sort of market based thinkers, and
Exactly.
that's central. So like your tech has capital. I'm sorry, climate change specifically attacks economic development. It does, because it's
Yeah.
faulting it for it. In a lot of ways.
Right.
Um, Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's right, and I think that's why there's been so many failures to address climate change, which we've known about for, well, way longer than I've been alive. And people have been really, my generation especially, young people are struggling to really see what the future is going to look like for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm struggling to see what the future is going to look like for me. So, um, you know, it's true though. There's this very market driven culture that is ingrained into Western society, especially here in the United States, and especially in New Jersey. I mean, you want to talk about growth, like that's all these people will talk about. That's
Mhm.
all these politicians will talk about.
That's it.
Um, it's all about growth, and unfortunately, the reality is we're going to have to stop growth, and we're actually going to have to contract. We're going to have to do degrowth at some point or another.
Or
Um,
nature's gonna do it for us.
or nature's going to do it for us in the form of fungi, probably. So
Oh, yeah, okay.
you could think of fungi as potentially like a great equalizer, but that's
Interesting. All right.
probably not something worth um, speculating about, although it is interesting. Um, but yeah, so when I first started learning about mushrooms, I actually had a fear of mushrooms. I think that this is important to mention because the more I looked into it as something that could potentially be an interest, and the more I handled the mushrooms, there was something about like the gills on a mushroom,
Yeah.
or the pores on a
Mhm.
bolete
Mhm.
will
Mhm.
potentially. Um, it's something about that like just really bothered me to look at. I think it was the first sort of mushrooms that I saw was in my backyard as like a little kid, and they were morels. Morel
Mhm.
mushrooms are a well-known kind of
Mm-hmm.
delicacy, some of the
Mm-hmm.
best
Mm-hmm.
tasting mushrooms. Of course, I didn't know this as a kid, and I was a little bit freaked out because they're kind of they almost look like a brain. They're like sort of covered in these holes. It was
Mm-hmm.
weird. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah, I know.
weird.
Yeah.
I thought it was like some kind of alien.
Yeah. Mhm. I think they actually might be.
they well, oh.
That's the alien species that's been watching us this whole. We that
Don't
incubated
start me
us.
on that one. I mean, is it a coincidence that bacteria and fungi started fighting each other from basically the dawn of life on the planet? I don't know.
I don't know. I
But
don't know.
that's, the conspiracy territory
Right,
there.
right, right.
It'll be
We'll have to have
interesting
you
to
back on.
really
We'll talk more
study.
about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, right, exactly. Um, So, something about combating your fears, I think, plays into my story of how
That's
I
very cool.
learned how to uh, identify mushrooms. And identification is really a daunting task for anybody who
Oh,
doesn't
I'm sure.
know. Latin, especially, I think is very difficult to pick up on. It is very much like trying to learn a new language. Like one of the genera of mushrooms, so above species rank,
Mhm.
that I specialize in is the Gymnopolis genus. And this is a very interesting genus of mushrooms. But, I can't just say to somebody, the name Gymnopolis junoneus doesn't apply anymore to us on the East Coast. We need to start saying Gymnopolis subspectabilis. They're not really going to know what the hell I'm talking about. So
Right.
Latin makes it really difficult to
Yeah.
understand. But if, and I remember this quote from a video, a short sort of video documentary about mushroom hunting when I first got into it. They said, if your interest is genuine, then it will come to you, and that proved to be true for me. I had almost like poisoned myself a couple of times um, picking wild mushrooms. So I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
recommend for anybody to kind of
Right.
just go out there and eat mushrooms because there's some really deadly stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, but at the same time, I think there is a cultural fear of mushrooms for especially for us in the U.S. and in Western Europe, where we really kind of are worried that most wild mushrooms are going to be like potentially deadly. But that's not even close to the reality. There's maybe about a dozen deadly considered deadly species uh, of mushroom in North America. That said, some of them are pretty common, but so you do have to be careful. You
Yeah.
do have to learn. But if the information isn't available, what are you going to do? So a good example of this is to sort of circle back to prohibition. And I remember watching some of the older videos about when they first identified, uh, when they first identified psilocybin as an active hallucinogenic ingredient in mushrooms. This was, I think, in the 50s, maybe. Um, a guy named Gordon Wasson traveled to, um, I think, Oaxaca in Mexico. I think. I'm not certain on
Okay.
that. But he saw this sort of ritualistic practice and compared the sort of visions with LSD, which had been popularized by, um, I don't know if it was by Albert Hoffman or if it was just
Well, Stephen Leary
his
was a
buddies, but
big part of that in the
right, and
'60s.
Leary
Just
was a
the movement
huge
itself. Yeah.
right. There was a big movement, and so from the get go, really, mycology and the study of these things, like really hardcore in America, was really tied to the counterculture movement of 50s, 60s, right up until the drug war. And of course, mycology continued on without touching the sort of psychedelic things. But
Mhm.
way back when they were first identifying, hey, there's wild psychedelic mushrooms that grow all over uh, North America, not just in Mexico. You can find them anywhere, and that's true. You can find them like here in New Jersey. You can find them where you are in Illinois. You can find them wherever.
Mhm.
People were getting them mixed up with a close look-alike. The genus is called Galerina, and these are deadly, deadly mushrooms, but they look very similar to the psilocybe genus. And when there was no information because it was prohibited to kind of publish this information about how to find magic mushrooms safely, there were a lot of cases of poisonings and deaths actually from
Mhm.
misidentification. And a simple anything as simple as saying the cops won't get involved if you go out and pick wild psychedelic mushrooms could have prevented that. But clearly, prohibition has been too useful for the capitalist class
Mhm.
to the point where it's worth for them, I guess, to let these people die. So, and you could say that about tons of death. I mean, look at the genocide that's happening in Palestine.
Yep.
So, yeah, death can be extremely profitable, and in fact, it
Mhm.
almost always is profitable for capitalism.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, Russell Brand, the comedian turned talk show guru, talked about that once. I think it was on a popular show like The Daily Show or something like that, or Bill Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you got to really think about it when, like, energy companies, thrive off of crises, and governments thrive off of crises, and corporations thrive off of war. Like that should give you a red flag about something,
Yeah,
that they're going to keep
yeah,
perpetuating these things because it gives them more money and more power. That's
yeah,
kind of how it goes.
and that's exactly right. And the crises and the contradictions of
Mhm.
capitalism in this late year of 2024 have just come so rapid fire one after the other that well, what you said is totally right. The
Mhm.
profits keep coming in, and then the crises keep happening, and they look worse and worse, and things get really bad really quick. And I was actually kind of astonished when I just first decided to run for office, and I had to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in the world. And when I opened my eyes, well, I wanted to close them again. I'll say that. So, but no, there's no going back at this point.
Right. Real quick, BL is watching. Ariel is watching. BL has made it clear that he doesn't like Russell Brand. That's fine. A lot. I understand. I understand where you're coming from. I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, he. I don't know. Something happened, but anyway. Real quick, in this Weeds Gaming, like at 4 o'clock, said what's up, and then there's somebody whose name is Joe Biden killed Aaron Bushnell. Okay, I'm gonna look that up
Oh
later.
yeah, I know
I don't know
that
anything about that.
person on Twitter, I think.
Okay, and then we going over what a mycologist was. Yes, some are poisonous, so don't take it upon yourself unless you really, really, really know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And then Arrow's asking, did we talk about the law that didn't pass? I guess there's a meeting tonight in the Illinois Green Party I think he needs to get to. Would you mind talking about that real quick?
Yes, so I think what he's referring to is something in New Jersey specifically. So yeah, this one really, this one annoyed me so much because so there's this sort of third idea of the way mycology does, or in this case, kind of does not interact with capital, and that's in this sort of sense that mushrooms and fungi are really kind of untouched by capitalist markets. Um, and of course, that's not completely true, but it is one kingdom of life that has sort of been really difficult to untwist for market systems. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but lately, of course, they've been trying to undo that and start to get into, of course, that's how capitalism functions. It's looking for new markets. And in mycology, one market that is now emerging is, of course, the psychedelic medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So in New Jersey, there was in the state Congress a bill that was going through, and it had language to decriminalize, expunge, and set up a sort of legalized framework for administering psilocybin for essentially any use, but it was focused on, at least an idea of some sort of medical benefit, which I think was at the time pretty good. I mean, we need to be moving toward decriminalization of all drugs, I
Yeah.
think. I don't think criminalization is helping anybody.
No.
And so there was this bill that I was kind of, I'll be honest, I was a little bit excited for this to come
Sure.
through. Well, it gets to the state Senate, they have a hearing, they remove the decriminalization, they remove the expungement, and what do they leave in is really the question at that point. Well, they left in the medical model. So essentially, what's going to happen, and this is if the bill ends up passing, I don't know if it will, but what's going to end up happening is it's just going to turn out to be a mass sell of the psilocybin industry to healthcare markets and
Um,
to like pharmaceutical companies, because they got rid of decriminalization in the bill. They got rid of expungement, and they even got rid of any like non-medical recreational potential. So that really annoyed me. And
well,
I wrote this whole kind of statement on it. You could probably find it on my website, which I should plug now. That would be,
I'll
I'll
put it
get
as
it
another
here.
banner. Go ahead. What is it?
Sure. It's Ben for Congress, not the number for the
FOR.
spelled FOR, for Congress NJ.com.
All right, hold on. It's saying I have too many banners.
Haha.
There you go. No, still too many. All right, you can go ahead. I'll work on this.
Yeah, sure. So this bill um, gets gutted, and I release this statement about why it's really bad to just turn these things over to the market. And I had said from the get go, when they were looking into decriminalization for psilocybin, which they should do and they should have done a long time ago, and it never should have been criminal in the first place, because mushrooms, and it may come as a surprise to some people, but statistically, mushrooms are the least dangerous drug out there in terms of hospitalizations. If you look at hospitalizations for any type of drug use, psilocybin is the lowest. And that's pretty important, because hospitalizations, that's costs for healthcare. And
Hmm.
so if you're looking at that statistic, mushrooms are the safest thing. And
It's just
I
a
said
better
that,
trip, like compared to acid, man. I mean, like
yeah,
tripping on
well,
mushrooms is like this really happy,
it's not
joyous
12
thing.
hours.
It's not 12 hours of just like, which has its place
Right.
too. But I mean, you know, it's I no, I very much. And there's actually been studies done that show that people
Mm-hmm.
who have taken shrooms tend to be happier people afterwards. So, like, really, like, there's a
Yeah,
very positive
I
effect. That's how I got.
I completely agree with that. And there's, yeah, there is a lot of positive um, effects. And there's sort of the argument between right now in the medical establishment. Is it something that's altering some sort of brain chemical, and that's why that has this antidepressive effect, which is what is being researched and what the medical model is currently saying in the science is that there are antidepressive effects and
Hmm.
potentially treat a lot of different mental illnesses
Hmm.
from
Yeah.
OCD to depression
Yeah.
to anxiety to
Hmm.
PTSD and beyond. And yeah, like to be honest about it, I don't think it is this chemical change that's sort of behind the scenes. I think that the trip itself and the experience itself is, and that's sort of the other side of the debate, is it the sort of mystical experience
Oh,
itself
my
that has an
mine were.
antidepressive effect. I would say that that's absolutely the case.
Yeah. I don't
um,
see how it couldn't be.
exactly, exactly. And people who have made these laws, they don't know anything
Right.
about
Right.
what it's like to actually try this stuff. They'd be the least they'd be the worst people to ask if it should be legal
Right.
or not, let
Right.
alone a felony.
Right.
So yeah, so let's see, where was I at? Oh, right, this legalization or potential decriminalization has now turned into the exact same thing that went wrong when New Jersey legalized cannabis and when weed became legal. I think they gave licenses out to maybe like 7 growers for the entire state,
Oh,
and that was it.
yeah. That's not much.
And there's
I mean,
no
New
home
Jersey's not
grow.
that big, but I mean, it's still seven's like
It's
nothing.
not that big, but it's
Seven's nothing.
dense. It
Yeah.
is the most densely populated state,
Right.
and there's a lot of people who like to smoke weed here. So when only 7 people are allowed to grow it,
Yeah.
with no home grow allowed, right?
Oh,
Where
none at all.
I think we might be the only state that has legalized recreational with no home grow, uh, personal
See,
use
again,
type.
that's more of like fueling the markets.
Exactly,
That's just
exactly.
it's like, what do you mean? Why can't I grow a couple of my own plants? It's stupid.
And New Jersey is really one of the worst, if not the worst, with funneling uh, funds into straight up industry and markets and nothing else. These these representatives are really so ingrained in that way of thinking. I don't really think that there's any way that someone could, constituents could say like, "Hey, why don't we push to think about things a different way?" Like, I think that these people have to go. They have to get voted out. They have to get replaced. Um, with young people, especially, right? Like, not only has my incumbent been in there for 27 years, he's also 87 years old.
I was going to ask that in the beginning when you said that. Like, I was afraid of sounding like an ageist or something because age is such like a big deal and it's such a sensitive topic. Like, but
Well, it
87. Okay,
is.
so he's 6 years older than Biden, who can't complete a sentence or a thought. Okay, is this guy showing any signs of cognitive decline?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's certainly, so the thing is, I haven't seen the guy. Like, the guy doesn't really come out except with these like comically large checks. No, he'll do this is legit. You can look it up. He comes out with these like oversized checks that just say like $1 million for, and then it's like the city or the town, and then it'll say like for lead pipe replacement or electric vehicle charging stations that I don't even know if they're actually there yet, and all these different like development projects that are like, to me, like, of course I kind of see through it really easily, and he's not giving these checks to the community, right? These checks are paying for contractors who
Right.
are making all the money.
Right.
Um, but it's just hilarious. He'll come out every like campaign cycle, every election cycle with these gigantic checks, and he'll go around to like different towns and say, "Hey, we're funding so and so with this federal grant. Um, some of this stuff is really unnecessary. Some of this stuff probably borders on illegal, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But I've seen some of the documents, and it doesn't seem to quite add up to me.
Looks fishy, huh? Yeah.
It does. It looks really fishy, and I think that everybody in my district, if they haven't thought about it yet, if they start to just kind of ask themselves that question, like, is there something going on here with the mass development? I think it's pretty obvious to anybody out there in my district. So, and if you're watching and you're in my district, hello and welcome. And it's great to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What area does District 9 cover? Like any towns I would have heard of maybe out here?
So one that is pretty important to uh, North Jersey as a whole, and an important town is Paterson. So Paterson, New Jersey, um, is where the incumbent, my opponent, is from, and I don't know if it's I think it is the biggest city in my district. And they actually have, so a portion of this town is South Paterson, and South Paterson sometimes goes under a different name as Little Palestine,
Oh,
because there's a very large and diverse and colorful Palestinian community
oh, I see.
that lives right under the nose of my opponent. And I know, because I've been out there talking with them and campaigning, especially when I was petitioning, they're really fed up with this guy for
Mm.
obvious reasons.
Hmm.
He is one of those APAC sellouts for sure. I think his scorecard is like 150,000 or something like that. I mean, it doesn't compare to some of the other people in New Jersey who are taking like a million. But no, he's definitely one of them. So Patterson is a very important town in my district. It covers this sort of weird gerrymandered strip between Bergen County and Passaic County in New Jersey. That's the very northeastern part of the state. And it goes all the way from um, essentially halfway through the middle of the state, right up to the Hudson River in this weird like strip. You can see that on my website too. It's kind of bizarre the way they've gerrymandered one of the towns, Wayne, it's a very large town, so I guess I can kind of see why they did it this way. But one of the zip codes is even cut in half down the zip code in the district. So, I remember we were trying to come up with like a map based on the zip codes of the district, and it wasn't even possible because one of the zip codes was even cut. So really gerrymandered, goes right up to the border of the Hudson River. Um, really, really overdeveloped. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I know it's a very highly developed area. And like, I mean, there's certain like where I'm like right now, I'm looking at a farm field. So like where I'm
mhm.
at is a like it's still suburbs, but you go a little bit west and it's almost all farms and horse ranches and stuff like that. You go east, southeast a little bit here, and it's like how you're describing it out there. It's just suburb after suburb until you get to Chicago.
Just
It's
yeah,
just massive
sprawling,
development everywhere. It's
sprawling
disgusting.
development,
It's
and
vile.
it is vile. And so yeah, I remember just yesterday. not yesterday, 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. I'm losing track of time a
That's
little
what I mean.
bit
Time's
on the
overrated.
campaign trail. Um, Things get a little bit lost. I'll be
I'm
honest,
sure
but
it's your life. It's great. Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, it is. But so I was down. This is out of my district though, but I think it's still important. I was in New Brunswick, actually right by Rutgers, for a little New Jersey Green Party meeting, and I saw a sign on sort of this massive building that basically that they're building there in the city of New Brunswick, and the quote for, or I guess the slogan for the company that was doing the development was, "A city is never finished." And I just was like, I had this visceral reaction
Yeah,
almost.
that's vomitous.
I was with John Serrano.
Yeah, I know,
He's
John.
running in District 10,
Yeah.
and he can attest to I had this like very emotional reaction to that because it's just so. I mean, they don't even try to hide it at this point.
Right.
It's it's crazy.
Capitalism has insustainability built into it.
Yeah,
It's not just maybe like a specific like a incidental outcome. Capitalism has to keep just growing and growing and growing and growing and growing in order to
exactly.
be capitalist. Okay, so that's the problem, and it's just astonishing to me. Like I'm thinking about, like I just went down south about a month, 5 or 6 weeks ago, about 4 hours south. So I had to go through all this stuff I was describing and past Chicago and everything else. And just I remember feeling like similar to what you're describing. You had that visceral feeling.
Hmm.
It's like just looking at like just being like physically like just disgusted. Like this is awful. It's
Yeah,
ugly. It's ugly. First of all, it's I mean, it's just concrete slabs all over the place and asphalt and just buildings and bricks and mortar everywhere. The worst you just nature is quintessentially beautiful, and that's part of its perks.
yeah,
Not to mention that it's necessary for life, but it's really beautiful looking at a mountain, a landscape, forest. I mean, forests are gorgeous. I love forests. I mean, most of the
yeah.
magic in the world is in forests. Yeah. So sorry, that's my little rant there.
No, please. I mean, that's awesome. It's true. Forests are just so amazing, and the fungal biodiversity and these
Mhm.
ecosystems are so critical. And I am worried about what happens in all these dead zones that we have in New
Mhm.
Jersey. For example, the New Jersey Meadowlands. Um, I don't think that area. I think that area covers most of John's district. But that is like one of the most exploited habitats that
Yeah.
we have, and over 100 years ago, and I felt like I wanted to remind the people who were passing this bill that had taken out the decriminalization. I felt it was necessary to remind them that over 100 years ago, a unique psilocybe species of mushroom was described to science in Hackensack, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands, um, and it hasn't been seen in 100 years.
Mm.
So all we have is that one type sample, and I think maybe somebody claimed that they found one maybe 10, 15 years ago and posted a couple pictures.
Hmm.
um, but how ridiculous is it that we're prohibiting this thing
Mhm.
which has grown naturally? It's a one of a kind. It's called psilocybe graveolens for anybody, any nerds out there who are interested in the Latin name who want to look into it. It's a one of a kind, and the habitat's been destroyed, and and it's prohibited illegally from. So it's just like,
It's yeah. I mean,
what a
there's definitely some
contradiction.
some hypocrisy there. There's definitely some irony.
Right. I
And just
mean,
to
it's
me
so
too, like
ironic.
as kind of an eco philosopher, I guess it's just to me that's like
Yeah.
the audacity that a government thinks it has the right to like outlaw nature. in any way. Like, this, like you said,
Yeah.
this is it's a plant. Like, I was out like outlawing pot. Like, what are you, stupid? It's a plant.
Yeah, right.
It's
I mean, it's unbelievable. These are native organisms,
Mhm.
and they're important. There's a reason they're here in the
Mhm.
ecosystem. And so, yeah, trying to outlaw them is really silly. And there's so much out there that these lawmakers really don't understand, which
Mm.
is why I was really worried once they started dipping into psilocybin and
Mhm.
mycology,
Mhm.
with, well, I mean, the fact that prohibition has been around forever is not good, but once they start looking into it as a market aspect, I thought to myself, they're going to get this way wrong. And I guarantee they don't even know that we have native psychedelic fungi in the state. I guarantee that they probably don't know that.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Like, yeah.
yeah. So right. So, anyways,
So like an analogy from like Illinois here is like, as far as like kind of like just tromping all over your natural setting as a state.
hmm
Illinois is called the prairie state because at one point there was 60% prairie land, which is a specific
that's
type of
right.
kind of ecosystem and grass height and type and so on.
Yeah.
Right now, 0.1% prairie. Point
Wow.
one, dude. That's because of commercial farming. That's the biggest problem. Farming is fine, but
Yeah.
commercial farming has got to go. Real
Yeah.
quick, Z Manny is saying, amazing how Greens are running candidates in every New Jersey congressional district and for Senate. More people should hear about these corporate free choices. Any update on Twitter blocking New Jersey Green account?
So yeah, that
What
was
happened there?
crazy. Thank you for bringing that up. So
Yeah, I
that
didn't
was
even hear that.
actually not, so that wasn't the Twitter account. I don't, I'm not entirely sure on the status of the Twitter account, to be honest, but the Instagram account and the Facebook account, it was Meta's activity that was, well, we were basically shut down. It is crazy and it is historic what we're trying to do here in New Jersey, and there's a reason I think why it happened here. I think there's a lot of reasons. Um, Part of it is like what I mentioned, where it's really one of the worst states of just pushing markets and developing markets like crazy. But I think also we want to sort of set an example for what is possible in the other states. You know, we want to be able to show that we can run a Senate candidate and um, all 12 districts, and you can go, and then, whenever I think Jill's petitions are due this month at some point. So wherever you are in New Jersey, you'll be able to go down green federally and fill out the column, which is really big.
Yeah.
And so, like a week after we posted about that, um, Instagram's gone, Facebook's gone, and we were kind of scared, and but also we weren't sure what was going on. Um, there were talks of a hack potentially. There were talks of, um, people really didn't know what was happening. So
No.
a couple days goes by, appeals were sent out and denied for no reason, which Meta will do. I mean, I've had accounts get banned before, and this is exactly what it looked like. So, yeah, the updates on that is that they're gone.
What
And
were the reasons for it? What did they say? They say like misinformation, that kind of thing, or just nothing?
no, no, they said they said we violated their community guidelines. That's all they said.
So lame.
So they're gone. We're going to have to rebuild from scratch. We're going to have to rebuild from scratch. And I mean, to say that that has like stressed us all out is really an understatement. I
I could
mean,
imagine.
since that point, like we've been scrambling to try to figure out how to organize ourselves. and how to combat the silencing because it's so extreme. Like nobody really even thought this would be a possibility, right? We're a real political party. We're a political organization. We're fighting for and ready to contest and win seats in November. So the idea that Meta would just outright ban us for no reason was a little bit curious, and nobody saw it coming. So we
Right.
were basically shell shocked for like a week before we realized, well, it's gone. So we will be remaking these accounts. They will be coming back.
Good.
So stay tuned for that. That's basically the update. And yeah, the media, no media actually, not even non-mainstream media. Nobody has talked about the Green 13 of New Jersey. Nobody has, obviously, in the same vein, talked about the fact that the accounts were banned. So yeah, I mean,
That is pretty a
trying
big deal that
to,
you like cancel the like social media accounts, a multitude of them for a political party, for the fourth largest party in the country.
yeah,
That should be newsworthy. You know, as
that
much as
should
they're
be
talking about
newsworthy.
stuff like the censorship and everything nowadays, that should be absolutely newsworthy.
Right. And even if we were only running like two candidates, that should be newsworthy.
Right.
The Green 13 itself is newsworthy that we all made
Absolutely.
the ballot and we weren't contested at all,
That's
um,
fabulous.
which was amazing. And then we were hit with the ban. And so, yeah, it's we've been trying to talk to media people. It has not been working very well, but we're gonna see what we can do, and we're gonna keep pushing. And
Do you have any
um,
speculations on what they might have used to decide that amongst to themselves that you broke community standards or whatever?
um,
Something
I
that like,
would
oh, I bet you
if
they're
I were
focusing on this. But go ahead.
yeah, if I were to guess, um, it would probably be something with Palestine,
Okay.
probably
Okay. So just right.
because the um, the APAC lobbies are just they've
Right.
been so militant about that. I
Literally
don't
and
know.
figuratively.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I don't know if it was like something got caught in an algorithm and
Right.
then it kind of shut it down, like the algorithm shut it down, or if somebody actually saw it.
Right.
I imagine a human had to look at it at some point in order to like permanently deactivate the
Right.
accounts, but I really don't know if that's necessarily how it works. But that would be my best guess.
Okay.
Of
No, I
course,
mean that would certainly be plausible.
yeah, the conspiracy theorist in me says, well, they were clearly very threatened by the emergence of a Green 13, so somebody called up
Yeah, somebody
Zuckerberg
got in
and said,
some CEO's ear and said, "Hey, we
"Hey,
can't have this. Here's $1 million if you deactivate their accounts." He's like, "Okay."
yeah, just all you
Um,
got to do is deactivate this account. That's all you
the
got to
crap
do."
that the duopoly pulls on third parties, that would not shock me at all. That would not like
No, it
obviously we don't
wouldn't.
have any direct evidence for it, but there's no way that
No,
I'm dismissing that as even as a
right.
possible theory.
I wouldn't be shocked in either of these cases.
Right.
Um, but yeah, is it was that the last question? Is there another
No,
question?
there's not. I mean, there's no like
Okay.
specific list of questions. That was one from Z Manny about that. I didn't even know that
Yeah.
was happening, but like yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
the Green 13. You're right, is newsworthy in itself. Like just that the Green Party members in New Jersey got together and said, "Hey, we're going to do this," and did it, and is doing that is so absolutely impressive. And I don't mean to sound paternalistic. I apologize, but I am so proud of you all for what you're doing. Tip
No,
of the hat.
it's
Seriously,
yeah.
like I love having you all on the show to talk about it. It's a great thing. The Green Party nationally, even internationally, some places, it has difficulty gaining members, especially here in the United States. We have like 250,000 members nationally. That's not a lot. The Green Party has something. I'm sorry, the Libertarian Party I think has something like over 3 million or something like that. So we're kind of a distant
Yeah.
fourth. But people like us. They like our ideologies, our platform positions. I talk to people about it all the time, and I don't have it. I rarely had anybody like disagree with me, like
Yeah.
saying that no, that's wrong. Um, it's just a party affiliation in this country is very loosely assembled, if you will, structured.
Yeah.
In order to be a Democrat or Republican, you just sort of like side with them, like in your mind and in the voting booth, and that's about
Right.
it. With the Green Party, it's a very different track whatsoever. Like, oh, actually, I forgot to ask you, and I always ask the Green Party members, how did you become a Green Party member? Because as I'm saying this now, I'm remembering becoming a
Yeah.
third party political party member is almost always, if not always, very purposeful and thought out. Okay, well, if you're a Democrat or Republican, usually it's because that's the way you were raised. Not always, but usually it's like your favorite sports team. It's like you like what your dad and parents liked. That it's just sort of ingrained in you. To be a third party member is a very libertarian or Green Party is very thoughtful. Like, okay, I'm discontent with the duopoly. I'm looking for something else. Okay, so how did you become a Green Party member?
Yeah. So it's a little bit interesting because I kind of did what you described for the duopoly, but for like anti-capitalist uh, theory. So from a very young age, I was always very interested in uh, things that were kind of taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, when I was real young, and I mentioned this on a different podcast with the candidates for Assange, and I remember what WikiLeaks was kind of publishing, and my initial like reaction in some of my first formative moments as a kid was that this government is messed up,
Mm-hmm.
and the more I looked into it, I started to read like anti-capitalist
Mm-hmm.
theories, and growing up, that's really the lens through which I observed the world, and the lens through which I learned about politics. So in a way, I am almost like one of those people who just kind of grew up that way, but uh, I've been felt very inclined toward socialism or eco socialism.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when Jill Stein ran in 2016, and that was sort of a big moment for the Green Party coming into the public eye. And for me at that point, um, that was really like where my head was at. And I think that since then, I was a little bit hesitant to involve myself with electoral politics just because I didn't see. I felt alienated myself from the political system, and I have a political science degree, right? So
Right, right, yeah.
that's a problem,
You know it
and
better than more people do. Most people do.
right, and so
Yeah.
so um, from 2016 onwards, especially like Biden, Trump, Hillary stuff, it was really alienating for me, and
Mhm.
I moved sort of back into um, uh, well, it really is my first foray into the Green Party. Um, I've always been sort of supportive tacitly of the Green Party, but I think that this year and these past few years especially, I've seen the national platform like develop in a really poignant way. For me, like as an anti-capitalist, um, I really I really liked
Mhm.
what was written. I don't know who wrote those policies that are kind of
Mhm.
central to the national party that I think were really updated for 2020 and then 2024. But I mean, hats off to them for sure,
Yeah.
because there's some serious analysis that has been done. And after seeing that, and then after also witnessing the horrific genocide
Oh, yeah. It's
carried out,
unbelievable.
I couldn't just sit around. I had to get involved, and the Green Party uh, became a great home for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. I'm really happy. I actually, I mean, I'd always voted Democrat. I guess like on a voter registration, I put Democratic Party. I don't know if that
Hmm.
officially made me a member as much as just sort of declared my affiliation. Um, but I actually became discontent, and then joined the Libertarian Party here in Illinois. Actually, won a primary for District 10 House of Representatives, but I didn't feel comfortable, mostly because they either didn't care about the environment or climate change, or the ones that did very little. And just like whenever I would interview them on my radio show, like, okay, what about climate change? Oh, the market will take care of it. I'm like, that's the lamest. That's the most like lazy, irresponsible answer ever. Certainly, I think technological innovation is going to happen and be a part of
Yeah.
it. There's no doubt. But I mean, this you got to do better than that. So I left and became a Green Party member
Yeah.
almost it'll be 4 years after this election, and
Wow.
haven't looked away since. I love it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Illinois Green Party has its struggles. There's no doubt. We have
Oh yeah.
very low membership.
Yeah,
Um,
New Jersey has its struggles as well, especially now that we have 13 candidates to try to wrangle and help out where we can. It is difficult.
but it's so
For
great that you
sure.
guys are doing that. I mean, I couldn't. We could never get that sort of solid
No, you
that sort of
could.
support here in Illinois. Not yet. We don't have the numbers. We have like 83 members statewide. It's like nothing. Like it's really low, and I mean we need to do more as far as like membership drives and stuff. Absolutely,
Hmm.
there's no doubt. And there's two new members that are making it very clear that we need to pick up the ball here. So like
Yeah.
yeah, and they're not wrong in that regard. But that's another story.
Oh, you
Um,
guys could do it. I mean, I
it
think you
can be
can do
done.
it.
It's just difficult.
It
Like when
can
you're
be
starting
done.
off with
Yeah.
this low in numbers, it's difficult to get any sort of momentum. But
Yeah.
that's okay. We're over an hour, man. Did you want to say anything to kind of sum it all up or plug yourself?
Um. Well, yeah. The last thing I'll say is in respect to. Well, I'll say two things. This will be the first thing. The last thing I'll say in respect to alienation was that for me, mycology and the study of mushrooms and foraging in nature on my own, alone, out in the woods, picking mushrooms, became an extremely helpful way to combat alienation. It has had huge benefits for me and my health and my mental health just as a activity alone
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that it is almost entirely sort of separated from markets.
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say, and so not everybody's way to sort of combat alienation is going to be mycology, but everybody can have a potential uh, mycology in their life that helps them fight alienation. And I challenge everybody to find that thing in their lives or pursue what that may be. And then number two, of course, is if I'm going to do this and win in November for the people and for the district and really for the country, gotta get those donations. So I gotta plug and ask if anybody, wherever you're at, you can find my donation page on my website. Uh, if it's $5, if it's $10, if it's $100, so some people make bank.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you could do is super beneficial, not just for me, but even if you want to go to like the Green Party of New Jersey and put something in for the state, that's gonna help everybody out as well. So gotta plug that. My Twitter and Instagrams, I'll plug them as well. It is gonna be. Let's see, what do I got here? My Twitter account is at Ben Taylor NJ, and my Instagram you can find at the same link, actually, at the same handle, Ben Taylor NJ. You can find me, And then, of course, my website, benforcongressnj.com. We can win this thing. We can win this thing for real. Don't ever doubt the power of the people.
Right? Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So that's his Twitter account and his what was the other one?
And Instagram, yeah.
And Instagram, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I didn't mean to like jump into your thunder there, but yeah,
No,
no, I
no,
mean,
it's okay.
no, I'm sorry. I
I
was just
didn't
looking at that. I
realize
heard you, and that's a very
you were
good,
doing banners there.
right. No, don't ever underestimate the power of the people. I was thinking about that today, like just like the like how like people like the authority that the government, this our current government has over people is really only due to the fact that we allow them to. There
Yep.
is an organization called You Are the Power, which is started and run by Spike Cohen, who is a libertarian, but it's a very powerful organization. If you really see that, yes, as collectivizing and gathering together in groups and communities and collectives to fight certain things, you will succeed if you have enough of the right type of support. There's no
Yeah.
doubt it will happen. I've interviewed cops on other shows, and like they all admit, like, hey man, you got one cop said we get our authority over you from you, and I'm like, that is perfectly said.
Yeah,
Because
right.
we can easily, and
Exactly.
he knows that he's a very cool guy. You can take it away. And you can stop it either. There's a multitude of different ways to do it. Like you're talking
Right,
about like
social
politics and how
contract
like,
idea.
yeah, absolutely, and like just how ugly politics can be, and it's just not it's just ugly, and it's just not a thing that you like
Yeah.
really effectively or want to be involved in because it's so nasty and exhausting. But it's
Yeah,
a
I was
fight that
almost
it's
gonna
a
change my major.
yeah, exactly. But it's a front that we have to fight on. I think
Yeah,
that's the reason. I mean, I would prefer not to pay attention to politics if I didn't have to.
me too.
But it's just like, I mean, you look at the last debate and what a joke it is, and just the options I mean, it's just ridiculous. At best, it's ridiculous. At worst, it's like evil and disgusting.
At
Um,
worst, it's horrifying. Yeah.
it's horrifying, yeah. But things can be done. They really can. You just need to get
Yeah.
the right type and number of people to get out there and start doing stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Things can be done, and right. I mean, that you said that exactly right. If we mobilize, this yeah, politics is not this crazy, or it should not be this crazy realm where
sure.
people who are what smart is what the people like we
Sure.
think is like they're smart people, so they should make like decisions. Politics is a realm for the people, and
Yeah,
if
no,
we get
that's
involved,
specifically what it's for.
yeah, that's specifically what
In
it's
any
for,
legitimate
and
sense, government is
exactly,
for people. Yeah, and if it's not for the people,
exactly.
then it's illegitimate and needs to go away.
Right, and right now it isn't serving the people. Right
Mhm.
now it's serving capitalist interests. It's serving profits for people's CEOs and bosses and stuff. It needs to be redirected, and it needs to be used to empower the working class, which is really what
Right.
we're about here in with the Green Party of New Jersey. Um, it's a movement, so this isn't an overnight thing. But if we get people in there who can start pushing for these policies to reduce the profits of the 1%, the CEOs, and start putting that back into the pockets of the people, that then opens up a whole bunch more options for daily people in what they can do when they don't have to worry about healthcare, education, things like that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be lovely? Justin B is saying
Yeah.
huge appreciation for both of you. Running takes a ton of courage. I'll definitely be contributing soon. Thank you, Justin. And BL
Yeah.
is
Thank you,
asking if you
Justin.
bet. It's asking if you Ben are on Facebook.
I am on Facebook. That would be. I have a page you can find. It's Ben Taylor for Congress. On my that's my Facebook page, and my profile is
Oh,
Ben
Ben Taylor for
Taylor.
Conference.
Yeah, Ben Taylor for Congress, spelled out once again. I've seen the four with the number four for Congress stuff people are doing, and that's their decision.
Well, yeah,
I
it's
tend to
just,
go more old school.
old school, proper grammar, proper semantics.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah, I mean, you see, well, yeah, like, I'm thinking of the band Fish, Phish, you know, that kind of
Yeah, right.
thing. You know,
I'm joking around. You
no,
can
I know,
do
I know.
whatever you.
Ben Taylor for Congress, that's his Facebook page. Check it out.
Yep,
Right.
yeah, and our chat here, I linked my profile in case I don't know if you can give that to people
Let
or
me, yeah, because that's,
how to exactly share that with people, but
well, I can put it, I'll put it in the comments section for sure, so people there can
oh right,
check
yeah,
it out.
that's excellent idea.
Um, so it's in the comments section. So if you want to check that out, it showed up on, yeah, okay. So it's in two places. So okay, cool.
I'm not very good at using Facebook yet, everybody. Just just to say that was sort of Facebook was kind of big a couple years before I started to get online. So
I noticed that it is sort of losing popularity. Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
sure, I'm 25.
Okay, so you're pretty damn young.
Yep.
Yeah, because I work at this for part time cash. I work at a pizza delivery place, and one of the cashiers is like 16 years old, and I
Yeah.
asked her about Facebook. She's like, I'm not on Facebook. I'm like, oh, is that like a thing now going on like amongst your age? She's like, yeah, Facebook's for old people. I'm like, what? You know, so like maybe in like about 10,
that
15
is
years, you'll see
yeah.
it decline.
That is the sentiment.
Is that really
with
that's
young people? Yeah,
consensus amongst
yeah.
that's
That's
crazy.
general consensus. Yeah, it is crazy, but that is general consensus.
That's funny. That's funny. And I
It is
could
funny.
only laugh. That's hysterical. All right. Ben Taylor, New Jersey District 9. Everybody pay attention to that. One of the Green 13 out in New Jersey. And again, thank you for what you guys are doing. This is fantastic. It's amazing. Hopefully the other state chapters will look at it and be like, hey, we can do that. And now BL wants to know what your TikTok is.
TikTok is another one that
I'm running out of banner space, guys.
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
Is another one I'm a little bit rusty. Well, I can't have gotten rust yet, but it's at Ben for Congress NJ. I believe that's the same as my website. Of course, I should know these things. Yeah, so it's the same as my website. So
but it's at instead of .com.
Right, instead of .com.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my TikTok. You can find it on there.
All right.
Got the whole 9 yards.
All right, sounds good, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, like again.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, dude. Politics is exhausting, and it can get really nasty. Even on a local level, it can get really nasty. I know a lot of like countywide politicians here, and they're just. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting. So good.
Gross.
Thank you for hanging in there and doing your due diligence and being honorable amongst a den of thieves, if you will. And yeah, for sure. I'm going to send you the email with the link to the Eleanor Green Party series booking page. And whenever you want, a few months out, whenever, I don't care, after the election, whatever you want to do, book another show if you wouldn't mind, because I would like to talk to you more about mycology and the spiritual, mystical, philosophical side of it all and that kind of thing. Because
sure.
I mean, I got lots of stories.
Yeah.
And after I started doing all that stuff, I went to college and studied philosophy and got a philosophy degree.
Right.
I'm not even
exactly.
kidding. Like it was like a very linear line from A to B. Because it just opens your mind to all these cool
It really
things.
does. It really does.
Anyway, I can't advocate it. Well, I probably shouldn't. But okay, all right, man. All right, Ben Taylor, thank you for coming on the show, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Eleanor Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ben.